New look to the show. Hope you like it. You'll notice some tweaks we're making here as we get ready to head into year 2 of the program. But enough about that. Bill Bender of the Sporting News will join me. Sam Yarnell will be here as well. Bill will talk undoubtedly about what we're about to get into, the Lane Kiffin story. And we'll also get into some of the NFL, Week 13. The more things change, the more we try to figure out where it's all leading in this week-to-week NFL. We'll get into that as we go through the show. Odds and ends with a Monday Night Football preview, and the WNBA Players Association owners still trying to get on the same page. We'll, of course, have that covered as well. But a new feature we're doing to start the show every day here on Sports Wrap is an opportunity for me to sort of give my take, because throughout the entire show we've got different guests. Sam is here, sort of espousing their points of view. And I said, you know what? My name's on the show. Might as well give mine too. And that's what the big story is all about. And of course, the big story on this Monday is Lane Kiffin, who is exactly who we thought he was. Nobody should be surprised by the way things have transpired here over the last several days and several weeks, and even going back further and saying several years when it comes to the career of Lane Kiffin. He's exactly who we thought he was. Anybody who's acting shocked or feigning outrage today simply chose not to be more skeptical, more cynical when it came to Lane Kiffin saying that he had changed, he had stopped drinking. And by the way, good on you. If you have a drinking problem, and you should stop drinking. Hats off to him on that. But this idea that the leopard changed its spots was always something I was suspicious of. Because at the end of the day, we all have a default setting. For better or worse, whatever that default setting is. For different people, that default setting is something different. For Lane Kiffin, this is his default setting when you look at his entire career. Nothing about the way this is all played out should surprise anybody at this point, because this is who Lane Kiffin has shown us to be. The guy that got fired after a year with the Raiders. Which Raiders were they at that point? We'd have to go through and look. Left after one season at Tennessee to go to USC, was there just a few years. He's the coaching vagabond. He travels around. It's getting to the next best gig that's possible. And finally, he had found success at Ole Miss. And this is going to go down in history, and this is not me being hyperbolic. This is going to go down in history as one of the all-time sort of coaching changes, situations, controversies that we've seen, because he is leaving a team that literally has a chance to play for a national championship. Now look, when you look at the field of teams that are going to be in there, do you want to argue where Ole Miss stands in terms of the college football playoff bracket? That's another conversation, and one we could probably have with Bill Bender. But they were in the conversation, and something so few teams get to do. And for him to walk away from that, to simply go and secure the bag and get the more high-profile job, it's the default setting. It's pushing the button and going back to the default setting of who you really are. You could stop drinking. You could take up yoga. You can do the vegan thing. But in your heart of hearts, you are who you are, for better or for worse. And a season that started and went through with fans loving, at Ole Miss, loving Lane Kiffin, and fans imploring him to bring this team potentially to a place it hadn't been to in over 60 years. In some cases, a lifetime. And to walk away from that. And Marty Smith asked him a question, and I thought Marty Smith did a really good job covering this. For all the crap that I can give ESPN, and there's plenty of time to do that, we could spend a whole show doing that. I thought Marty Smith asked a great question saying, why? Why? What's so great about LSU? What makes it better is basically what Marty Smith said than where you are now. And Lane Kiffin couldn't give an answer. And that's because we all know what the answer is. In large part, it's going from $9 million a year to $12 million and maybe more than that per year. It's the prestige that comes with potentially winning at LSU. But what's to say he does? And if he doesn't, and a guy who's, 50 years old, and roughly the same age as me, in fact, if he doesn't win that national championship, which, by the way, it's more likely than not he will not win a national championship at LSU, because for all his talent as a head coach, there are so many things that factor in to winning a national championship now, and some of them are out of your control. If he doesn't win that national championship, what's he going to be thinking sitting on the porch 20 years from now when his career is ended? And he had that team, that group that he walked away from, that he simply decided, for whatever reason, he thought the LSU opportunity was better. Last thing, don't blame the calendar. Don't tell me how bad. Yeah, we all know the NCAA screws these things up and that there needs to be a higher body that governs what the NCAA does. But there's only one person at the end of the day who is responsible for how all of this is played out. And it's the guy on the screen. No, not me. Lane Kiffin. Ultimately, he was the person that put all of this in motion. Not LSU. They were going to go get a coach regardless of whether or not it was Lane Kiffin. Or Florida was going to go get their coach or whomever. It was Lane Kiffin that put all of this in motion. Not a calendar, not a player transfer report. It's Lane Kiffin that put all this in motion. And while I believe they should have let him coach out the rest of the season, and we'll get into this with Bill Bender coming up in a couple of minutes, I can understand the rationale for not letting him coach the rest of the season. You're going to coach for the rival. Now you want to coach for us. Bill Bender will stop by from the Sporting News. Sam Yarnell will be with him. Sports Wrap continues on this Monday. Welcome back to this Monday edition of the show. Bill Bender is here, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, did we pick a good day to have him. Luckily, we have him every Monday. All right. Everybody heard what I had to say about Lane Kiffin in the big story. Bill Bender. You've had, several hours to sort of marinate in this story. Where are you when it comes to Lane Kiffin leaving for LSU and the way it all transpired?
Well, there's so many layers to it, but it's really simple. I have no problem with him leaving for LSU. It is historically in the 21st century a better job. The way that he was going to do it was going to be ugly no matter how it happens. And not all of that is his fault. The calendar is what it is. The college football playoff is what it is. Other group of 5, group of 4, and group of 5 coaches do this as well. But the way that Lane did it was the way Lane does everything. It was drawn out and took forever and grabbed a lot of attention and headlines, and obviously it was messy. So I see both sides of it, and I'm trying to be as fair as possible.
But I don't know if you can both sides this. I'm sorry. And everybody wants to say the calendar. It still boils down to one person. No matter what, somebody was going to be coaching LSU next year. Didn't have to be him. And yes, other coaches leave at the end of the season, and some coaches leave, in Jim Mora's case, before the end of the season. They're not playing for potentially a national championship, Bill. I still come back to the idea that Lane Kiffin hit the default button to what Lane Kiffin has always been. And that's a self-absorbed narcissist. I won't even say a great college football coach. He's never won anything. And we're treating him like he's won something, Bill. I can't, at first there was a part of me that said, yeah, they should let him coach. I mean, it's for the kids. And then I'm like, no, you left me for another woman. You're not sleeping in the same house tonight. That's not happening.
Well, I knew that part was going to happen. that Ole Miss, if he left, there was no way that he was going to coach the college football playoff. I had this discussion with editors 2 weeks ago, and they I won't say they acted like I was crazy, but I was very matter of fact. He will not coach the playoff if he leaves for LSU. Two, I mean, I guess I would have taken his side and say it's Lane Kiffin's life, not ours. It's his decision. It's not our decision. We can weigh in on that all we want. But the fact is, Jason, LSU, 3 of the last 4 coaches have won a national title. LSU is a better historical program. And that's why I literally don't have a problem with him doing it, even if the timing stinks.
Bill, my question to you is from a fan perspective, because I know we can talk for, 20 shows straight about how Lane Kiffin actually feels and what he actually heard when he had that talk with Jesus on Saturday night. But my question to you is, do Ole Miss fans really have the right to be mad at him or about this whole situation? You knew this is what you were getting yourselves into when you brought Lane Kiffin in after, what was his last stop, FAU or wherever random it was. You had to expect that this is how it was going to end. I don't understand why Ole Miss fans are so up in arms about the whole thing. Do you feel like they should be?
Well, I mean, they're fans. It feels a little bit like Rich Rodriguez in West Virginia when he left, and Michigan was undeniably a better job than West Virginia. Like that, but because of the home ties and how passionate that fan base is, the fans are always going to be mad in this case. But I think for me, it just comes down to, Jason, everything he said was right. He's a narcissist. He makes it about him. He made the whole entirety of Rivalry Week was about Lane Kiffin. So yes, he is all of those things. But at the end of the day, I just think LSU's a better job, and he took the better job. And if any of us took a better job somewhere else, yeah, maybe our coworkers might be mad, especially if we took it in the middle of the regular season, which I haven't done for 18 years, by the way. But it's something that people do.
In the overall analysis of him going over to LSU, what's the build going to be like for him in terms of trying to take what Brian Kelly leaves behind, the remains of that program, and how quickly in the era of the transfer portal, the ability to recruit, which is obviously a strong suit, what does that process look like for him?
Well, I mean, we're going to find out. It's a high pressure job, and I think a lot of people are going to root for him to fail. Whereas at FAU and Ole Miss, we were kind of rooting for him to succeed. And by the way, they play at Ole Miss next year, and they play at Tennessee next year. And the ratings on some of these games where Lane Kiffin goes, wherever he goes next year at LSU, are going to be off the charts. And I think it's worth finding out. I think he's matured as a coach. I don't know if he's matured as a person. I have no idea. But I know when Lane's in town, it is instant entertainment, and it's exactly what LSU is going to get with him.
Some guys just love to be the villain, and I think that's him. Go ahead, Sam.
Bill, from an Ole Miss perspective now, I'm done talking about the Lane Kiffin side of this. From an Ole Miss perspective, with regard to the college football playoffs, I know we'll know tomorrow night, but I was thinking about this. When you think about Jordan Travis, right, and the principles that the College Football Playoff Committee has laid out and how they have to consider something like this, and quite frankly, the gratitude or the gratuity of the loss that Ole Miss is taking, how far do you see them dropping in the CFP rankings, and do they fall out of the playoff altogether?
No, they're not going to fall out of the playoff, and they're not going to fall out of a first-round home game. Why should they? Just because their coach left? I think this is completely different. Remember, Florida State dropped 1 spot. Ole Miss would have to drop 6 spots. The low teams they beat, like Oklahoma. I think this is probably, Sam, the largest overreaction of all, because they'll still get a home game. They'll be probably the 7th seed. At worst, they'll slip behind Texas A&M or be ranked behind Texas A&M, which they should. They'll probably be a 7th seed. The ultimate irony is if the projections as they are now hold up, they would play Alabama at home in an opener imagine It'll be a surreal setting, and we'll be able to sell that in the first round because Lane Kiffin won't be there.
In terms of turning over the reins of the program here, in the way they have to the defensive coordinator and all of that comes with. Well, you know what? Let me hold you over. We're going to hold you over for one more segment because I want to see what you have to say about that as well. So we're going to get into it. Our man, Bill Bender, the Sporting News, hangs out with us on the show. There is a whole bunch more to get to from college football as well that does not have to do with Lane Kiffin. We'll do that as well as we continue on this Monday Sports Wrap. Welcome back inside our Sports Wrap studios in Las Vegas on this Monday. Let's continue the conversation. Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Sam Yarnell, always hanging out with me here on the show. How much really changes with Pete Golding here? I know that, Lane Kiffin put out this edict. Guys had to come and join him now, otherwise they weren't going to have a spot for them at LSU. How much really changes from a coaching standpoint?
We're going to find out. I think as long as the players are on the field, there is some continuity there. It's tough. I mean, I always get that question, does it matter that a head coach is not there and the coordinator's there? Yes, it matters. He's the ultimate CEO, decision maker, tone setter at practice, all those kind of things. So as far as game prep, yeah, it will matter. But I just think it's how they handle the distraction. They did handle the distraction during Egg Bowl week well. Ole Miss played very well in that game. Trinidad Chambliss played very well in that game. So to me, it's more about execution, organization. And the one thing that Ryan Day brought up about the Ohio State-Michigan game is communication. Is the communication the same between coach and player, which at Ohio State is pretty darn good right now.
Bill, on the other side of the big game, an underrated, but yet still there, I guess, from at least a Michigan fan base perspective narrative seems to be Sharon Moore and his job security. Do you think that Sharon Moore deserves to be back next season?
I mean, I've heard nothing that he would be on the hot seat. I do think there are questions, though, about which way that offense is going to go around Bryce Underwood. They could not throw the ball. Their offensive philosophy does not match what they have. Or what they need around Bryce Underwood, whether that's getting receivers in the portal. And that was the difference, Sam, quite frankly, Saturday, is that Ohio State had a 5-star quarterback. And yes, they have better players on the perimeter. I mean, yes, they have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, but Ryan Day was aggressive. He called the game he should have called last year on Saturday.
Elsewhere, Bill, it finally happened. Something you and I talked about weeks ago on this show. Loyal listeners and loyal watchers of the program remember it well. 5-loss Duke has found themselves in the ACC title game, and they're only 2.5-point underdogs, Bill. Obviously, they can win the game, but if they do, live in this hypothetical with me for a second. Does 5-loss Duke make the playoff, or do we get 2 G5 teams?
I think we'll get 2 G5 teams. I think you get the American champion, which will be a play-in game between Tulane and North Texas. Then you'll get James Madison, a team that would probably
Sam,
be ranked.
Look at Sam. I'm surprised he's not like jumping up and down right now.
That's who I would take. And I think, the ACC, you wonder at some point, would Miami still get in as an at-large and you kind of pass it off that way? But this was bound to happen at some point. We'd had 3 and 4 loss teams in the BCS era, certainly, and in the 14 playoff era, but you just never got that upset, right? There was plenty of Big Ten West champions that had rough records going into Indianapolis, but they weren't getting in a 14 playoff. So it is very interesting. I think it's embarrassing. And I thought Nicole Auerbach had a great tweet that if I were the ACC commissioner, I might have just threw out the tiebreakers and said, you know what, Miami, you're going to Charlotte. Because and Duke could scream that's unfair and all that, but can you really scream something's unfair when you're 7-5?
And you lost 2 games to G5 schools already
Right.
this year. Let's not forget that part. Elsewhere, Bill, looking ahead to conference championship weekend, obviously the Georgia and Alabama game ends up because of the Iron Bowl's result, and we have Indiana and Ohio State. In terms of those 2 games, just quite simply from a viewing perspective, which one do you expect to be a better game?
Out of Alabama and Georgia?
Or Ohio State and Indiana?
I think Alabama and Georgia will be closer. Just one possession, classic. And the big question there, Kirby Smart, can he finally beat Alabama? That Georgia he's beaten them once, but just that's the kryptonite, 1-7. And Georgia's 0-4 against Alabama in the SEC championship game. So those are a couple that I'm looking at there, those trends. I actually think Georgia's going to win the game. And then Indiana, Ohio State, I want to know what's changed, and I've wondered that all year. Is Indiana better than the team that lost 38-15 to Ohio State last year, or what's that gap? And I think I can meet halfway there too, Sam. I like Ohio State to win by double digits, but I do think it'll be a competitive game. So you asked which game will be closer. If I had to pick one, I'd take Georgia, Alabama.
Tulane, has this opportunity, obviously, and we were just talking about, the prospects for them, and they went the opposite route. They're going to let John Summerall coach in that game, despite the fact that he's leaving for Florida, and they cited transparency and all this different things. But I also think it's as simple as he's not leaving for a conference rival. Has as much to do with it as anything. Give me your thoughts on Summerall, winding up at Florida. We talked about Eric Harris last week as well, with him leaving as well. Give me some thoughts on Summerall and Tulane.
Well, he was going to go to an SEC job. It was just a matter of which one, much like Alex Gullish and Ryan Silverfield, almost the entirety of these American Conference coaches all leveled up, which is unfortunate in some ways for the American, but also a nod that, hey, you produce good coaches that the SEC is confident in. I think Summerall is a very good choice for Florida. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's won at both spots, Troy and Tulane, at a prolific level. I think he'll bring a little bit of that attitude. It feels to me a little bit like Mike Elko at Texas A&M. You're not going to be blown away by the hire, but in 2 years, you're going to be like, man, they're tough. They play hard. And I know those are cliches and they don't win. You don't necessarily win football games simply by that. But as a program, they need a guy like John Summerall. I think he'll do well. North Texas Tulane might be the most entertaining game of the weekend. I'll throw that out there too. I think they're both going to score a ton of points and make it a really interesting play-in, playoff game.
We only have about less than a minute left. Jim Mora left UConn for Colorado State. Who winds up in that UConn job? And I teased you a little bit about Brian Kelly. Any chance Brian Kelly would wind up being a possibility for that vacancy?
If he wants to coach. Obviously UConn's in an interesting spot, and we've talked about them a little bit on this podcast, right? They do well. Jim Mora did very well there, and I think we'll see. I don't know if Brian Kelly comes out of retirement or whatever, buyout land, to take that job, but it's certainly in a better place than it was, and you got to give Jim Mora credit for that. Colorado State, a weird fit, by the way.
Yeah, I said that last week. Call Dan Orlovsky. He wants to coach. If you're UConn, bring back your old quarterback. Bill, always appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Sports Wrap continues on this Monday. Thanks to Bill Bender of the Sporting News for joining us. It is rare that anything can push the NFL off segment 1, 2, 3 in the show, but college football did it today, thanks to Lane Kiffin. But Sam Yarnell, plenty of upsets around the NFL in Week 13. Certainly a part of the narrative. And it just feels like we're going to have to wait until we get to the playoffs or the final week or two of the season to see where all of this settles, because it really, the week-to-week nature of this league right now makes it impossible to try and figure out what the hell we're watching. And I haven't spoken to you really, and we haven't really talked that much about it since the Thanksgiving Day games, because we pre-recorded Page versus the Prince for Friday's show. But I'll start in the NFC with the Rams losing, the Bears being the number 1 seed after week 13 in the NFL. I mean, if I had told you the Bears and the Patriots were going to be the respective 1 seeds in the NFC and the AFC, you would have had me peeing into a cup somewhere. I mean, it seems nuts with what we've been watching, or that the Jaguars would lead the AFC South. Although that was my dark horse pick, I will say, before the season started, was the Jags in the AFC South. You know, in this topsy-turvy NFL, and look, the Rams are going to be fine. I know we've said that about a bunch of teams this year. The Rams are going to be fine, I think, but certainly an eye-opening result with what took place, especially considering the way Carolina had played just 5 days earlier on Monday night against the 49ers, Sam.
Those who know me know I have become this season specifically a huge Bryce Young guy. And this was a massive Panthers spot. This was obviously, I talk about it on the show all the time, right? It's really hard for West Coast teams to fly to the East Coast and play in that 1 o'clock window, which is when you had Matthew Stafford, 8-year-old Matthew Stafford, and the Los Angeles Rams doing. It was certainly a Panthers spot in this game, Jason. But, and the Rams, let's not pretend like they were a horrible football team. The Carolina Panthers stepped up, and the Carolina Panthers showed you in this game that they are not the Carolina Panthers of the last, has it been 10 years? Maybe the last 10 years, at least the last 5. This is the first step. This season for the Panthers, Jason, is the first step in the return to relevancy, the return to that team that was in the NFC playoffs every year, that was dominating the NFC South every year. This is how it starts for the Carolina Panthers, and it starts with a guy like Bryce Young, who once again yesterday had exactly the game the Carolina Panthers needed him to have. Made plays when he needed to, managed the game when he needed to. He's got a perfect balance in terms of a quarterback, of a guy who can keep you in it, but then go win it right when he needs to. It's why he's so good in game-winning situations, Jason, and it's why he was so good against the Super Bowl favorites heading into yesterday.
And well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, despite the fact that they lose, are we off the Rams? No. I still think they are the favorite to come out of the NFC. If we were to sit here and and sort of break it down, I haven't even looked at what the odds are in terms of Vegas, but I still feel like they're the team that's the favorite to me. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now at plus 470, followed by the Seahawks, who are almost double the odds at plus 850. Sam, I mean, it still feels to me like this is the Rams. It is set up well for the Rams here.
It is set up. That's a great way to put it, Jason. It's set up so well for the Rams. You don't want to say it's theirs to lose because it's also the Los Angeles Rams. And let's be honest, injury volatility wise, they may be the most fragile team currently in the playoff picture, right? Kyron Williams has always had injury problems. Puka Nacua always had injury problems. Matthew Stafford spent the preseason in some cryo chamber. Devontae Adams is in the later stages of his career and has had injury problems over the last 2 seasons. So it's not like it's theirs to lose, but you're exactly right. It's set up in such a great way for them. It's why the odds are where they are. But let's not sleep on the teams that have crept up right behind them in the Seattle Seahawks and Green Bay Packers. The Philadelphia Eagles, however, to your point about these upsets over the weekend, seemingly in free fall right now.
Yeah, it's insane to say that about a team that still is likely to win the division, but now we have to actually say likely to win the division. It's not a foregone conclusion anymore with the way the Cowboys are playing. And I said maybe a couple of weeks ago I'd put the Cowboys' chances at like 10%. Now it feels like there's a much better shot. And that defense, look, that defense just has to be good enough. And right now it's good enough, whereas before it was craptastic. Now it's just good enough that it gives that offense a chance to win games. And whether he stepped in it or this was some master plan by Jerry Jones, as much as we want to crush Jerry Jones, and rightfully so, for so many things that's happened with this team over the last 2 decades, the Cowboys are sitting pretty right now. It's all right in front of them, Sam.
Yes, and let's be clear. They do still need help, But the thing is, they're starting to get help.
They're probably going to get it.
Expect them to get the help. So, like, yeah, the Cowboys. I may have to walk back all my Cowboys takes. I will say though, it is probably the former rather than the latter. What you were referring to, it's starting to feel like Jerry Jones maybe luck boxed his way into this whole situation and just so happened to be right retrospectively.
Yeah, but. I mean, look, they beat
credit to them. They might win it. You're right. They might win that division.
If they beat Detroit, would it shock us if they won out? I don't think it would.
It's hard to win in the NFL. It's hard to win in the NFL. But if they beat Detroit, they're going to win a lot more of their games.
Yeah, ask the Chiefs. Speaking of the AFC, after examining the NFC, we'll examine the AFC side of the picture when we continue on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap. Rolling along on this Monday, Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. Continuing with our conversation around the NFL. Most of Week 13 in the books. Giants and Patriots on Monday night. We'll get into that in Odds and Ends. Sam, Colts lose. And look, I hate to tell people I told you so. But when they were 7-1, I told you, that I thought this team was fraudulent. Now you've got Daniel Jones playing with a fractured fibula, which is nuts to think about, that he's out there. And he's a gamer. Good for him. But, the trend lines right now on the Colts, certainly not going in the right direction. And, hats off to Liam Cohen. It isn't pretty every week. We don't love every throw that Trevor Lawrence makes, but they're the Jags right now atop the AFC South. And by the time the season ends, the Colts might be the third best team in that division, Sam.
Wow. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's certainly not. I would be beyond surprised if that were the case. But you said it, right?
Not with their schedule. With their schedule, they could wind up being the third best team in that division, Sam.
I have one main takeaway from watching the last 2 weeks of the Indianapolis Colts, and it has nothing to do with the players on the field or any of the other teams in their division or any of the other teams in the conference. The Indianapolis Colts hate Anthony Richardson. They hate Anthony Richardson. You're rolling Daniel Jones on one leg out to start NFL games against the team that's chasing you down in the division. You hate Anthony Richardson like a lot. Like, you really got to dislike that kid. It's almost as... you don't want to say that Daniel Jones looked as bad as, say, Max Brosmer, who we didn't get a chance to touch on in the NFC segment. But, he clearly is not on one leg. The guy's not an NFL quarterback. He's barely an NFL quarterback on two legs. And now you're just going to throw him out there on one? It's not fair. I'm very disappointed in the Colts because I talked a lot about on this show how they are such a talented team. Historically, you don't see teams like this with an offensive rookie of the year contender, an offensive player of the year contender, and a coach of the year contender. All they need is a quarterback to manage the game, and somehow they still messed that up. It's really sad. It's sad. That's the adjective I'll use. Sad.
Houston right now, right on the cusp of being a playoff team. And they could wind up being a playoff team at the expense of Indianapolis ultimately, which is kind of interesting. They could wind up being that team that takes the spot. And it feels like Chargers, Bills, obviously I think will get in. And then that third team kind of feels like, it feels like it's Houston's spot. As much as I want to sit here and tell you that the Chiefs, who have the Texans coming up, I believe, as much as I want to sit here and tell you that I think it's the Chiefs, and we keep expecting some way, somehow, and it is still right there in front of them. If you're a Chiefs fan, that's the one thing I guess you can hang on to, Sam. But after what I saw in Dallas, I'm having a harder time every week justifying a position that says Kansas City's going to wind up in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you are 100% correct in that thought, Jason. And I hope you, like many of our listeners and watchers out there, about a month and a half ago on the show when the Chiefs were plus 450 to miss the playoffs, I hope you tailed those bets because they're looking real good right now. You're looking at minus money on the Kansas City Chiefs to miss the playoffs right now, heading into week 14 of the NFL season. Again, this is uncharted waters for this franchise. They've never been 500 this late in a season in Patrick Mahomes' career. And Jason, this is the best part of the NFL season, right? Because we're heading into week 14 and you just referenced it. We're getting our first playoff game. This Texans-Chiefs game is quite literally going to determine the last playoff spot in the AFC. If the Chiefs lose this game, their season is over. I am confidently saying that. If the Chiefs lose to the Texans in week 14, we can cash our missed playoff tickets this week, right? This is the game that the Chiefs have to win, and I think it's why they're favored by more than a field goal.
As much as we talk about the Patriots and their shot at being a 1 seed, Denver right there obviously at 10-2, they find a way late again. They are those cardiac kids. They continue to do this week in and week out. You can basically bet on some sort of drama with this team every week on the field. And last night, the latest example, by the way, that was one of the worst officiated final couple of minutes of a football game that I've ever watched in my life. Another topic for another time, but Denver at 10-2, and I still don't feel like they're the best team in the AFC, Sam.
I think you put it so well on social media last night, Jason. It was like you said that they're this team that will always play up to opponents better than them, but they'll also play down to opponents worse than them. Yeah. And that is the exact team that as a different team in the AFC's fan, I want to play so badly in the playoffs. That is a team that is just built to crash and burn one playoff game because Bo Nix throws 3 interceptions and, they can't get RJ Harvey going on the ground. This team, the Broncos, are going to continue to win regular season games. That's what it feels like they are to me, a regular season team.
Does anybody want to win the AFC North, by the way? Does anybody want to win that division?
The Bengals do. The Bengals do. That's the team that wants to.
I'm rooting for it. I'm so rooting for it. A lot of things got to go right, though. A lot of things got to go right. We've got odds and ends right around the corner. There's a Monday Night Football game. Giants and the Patriots. Eli Manning ain't walking through that door. Neither's Tom Brady. We're coming back. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. But before we do, a couple of reminders. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show Monday through Friday. 45 minutes in and out on the way to work, in the shower, on the treadmill, at the gym, wherever it may be, go and do that. You could also check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Why do you want to do this? Well, you can watch this TV show Monday through Friday on YouTube. Everybody loves that. Go and subscribe. It's free. It does us a big favor, elevates us. We enjoy that. We're bringing you great content on the YouTube channel every day. Sports Wrap Shorts. If you haven't checked these out yet, usually about a minute long, no longer than 3 minutes. When news breaks, sometimes we're not able to get it into the show here because of when we put together the show in the mornings. Go and check out Sports Wrap Shorts, available for you on our YouTube channel, covering the top stories and the top games in sports. And available, Sports Wrap Shorts, also available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. Easy to remember. Go and subscribe today. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Monday, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. WNBA players and owners and the league, a 40-day extension between the two sides to try and hammer out a collective bargaining deal. at least they're still talking. At least there's still hope that the two sides could wind up ultimately coming together and figuring out a way to avoid Armageddon, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, this is hopefully, I'm just hoping that it gets done so that it paints a picture for other leagues who are about to go through the same thing. That's my real hope here. Get it done quickly, get it done efficiently, so that Major League Baseball can look and point and go, all right, that's exactly what we should do.
The WNBA is the shining example for everybody else. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Giants and Patriots. Monday Night Football. Look, would it shock you tonight if the Giants won this game, Sam?
Not at all. But I got a bone to pick first.
Okay.
Today is December 1st, right? The first day after the end of November. And as you'll all know, we talked about a story on this show, gosh, maybe months ago at this point, that ESPN bet would end after November 30th. December 1st would begin this ESPN DraftKings partnership. Well, something I like to do, right, is look through my scores every day through the ESPN app. And up until today, I could always, no matter what the game was when I was looking at it, I could always see the spread and the total right when I pull up the little game page. But now that's gone. So I have to go from the ESPN app all the way over to my sports book, back to the ESPN app, just to find out that this is a 7.5 point line. And yes, Jason, I like the Giants plus 7.5. That feels like way too big of a number for a quarterback who's never thrown for 300 yards in a game to cover.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. Wow, that was, talk about landing the plane. You circled the airport for a while there. The Giants plus 7.5 is the number. 46.5 is the total. Giants on the money line, if you're really feeling ambitious, plus 300. Jackson Dart is back. The Flying Jackson Darts are back at it. I've been pretty good in the primetime games lately. I will say take the Giants plus the 7.5, and I'll go under 46.5. I like both of those tonight.
I like the Giants. I'm not as sold on the total either way. This is a game, right? I could see it could be played so many different ways, but all of the different ways it gets played, I just never see the Patriots winning this game by more than a touchdown, right? The Giants have all the momentum right now. Maybe it's the Jackson Dart coming back off of concussion protocol, but I just don't understand this number. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, so I'll take the points with the Giants. Don't feel any real type of way about the total. And in terms of the money line, maybe a sprinkle, but I don't know.
We're getting to that time of the year where weather's going to start impacting some of these games and some of these outdoor venues as we go week to week. We're getting to that time of the year. By the way, another team in the AFC, don't count out the Dolphins.
Oh my gosh, you and these Dolphins.
I said it last week. The Dolphins are going to be 7-7 through 14 games. You watch. And if they're 7-7 through 14 games, they're going to have a puncher's chance. I'm telling you, man, the playoff scenarios that are going to start playing themselves out here over the final few weeks, it's going to be dizzying to try and figure out all the scenarios. I know we like to think that a lot of times these things all shake themselves out. If you're a fan of chaos, Sam Yarnell, and I know you are a fan of chaos, you're going to love the final, what are we, 4 weeks of the NFL season?
That is true, but I'm not going to love the Miami Dolphins, who are 80-1 to make the playoffs, and their win total is live 7.5.
Oh, I'll take the over on the win total. Give me the over on the win total. We got to go. Thanks to Bill Bender. We'll see you all back here on Tuesday for more Sports Wrap. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got Sports Wrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half of as exciting. They're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.